We are so glad to have you here and welcome. Love this. Layla wants to finish the food memoir manuscript, and you're going to be in the intensive. Awesome. Kathy's releasing her next essay collection, Confessions of a Third-Rate Goddess, which I just think sounds amazing. Rachel's going to submit often to the New York Times. Fantastic. Ricky's going to get to the next novel draft. Brian's planning to meet the right agent. Stephanie's going to query her memoir. Loretta's on draft 7. She's going to finish the 7th draft. Oh, I love Allison's paring back from chasing every shiny squirrel. Sometimes it's so hard to stick to a project. I actually wrote about that in a blog today where as soon as you commit to a big project, a bunch of other stuff is going to start nagging for your attention because it's your brain's way of going, I am nervous about the outcome of this giant project, but if we focus on many other things, we won't have to think about it. Just keep gently directing your focus back to the thing you care about. Ashley, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
I did. I want to get 1 week ahead on my newsletters. I've got in the habit, and this is a new habit for me because I used to just write 4 newsletters a year. Now I'm writing 2 a week, and I've been getting them done on Sunday or Monday, and then they go out Tuesday or Thursday. But I would like to get actually 1 week ahead and maintain that throughout the year. So it's always like I'm getting it done, but I'm still getting it done on time. I have that extra buffer.
Love that. And I love what Joanna typed in the chat too. She wants to start not reading anybody else's words in the day before she starts writing her own words. And I think that's a really beautiful way to start the day.
I love that. That is just that. When we're talking today about nurturing real connections, I want you guys all to think of yourselves as creators more than consumers, okay? And there's only so much time in the day. So every time we can create either a post or words or connection with someone else, we're actually building that bridge and filling ourselves up rather than just consuming things that just keep us feeling a little wanting and empty a lot of the time.
Which brings us into what we're talking about today, which is stop chasing numbers, nurturing real platform. Before we dive into our thing today, Ashley, we have a super special thing coming up. Can you tell us what is this super special, extra, additional Writer's Bridge thing that is coming up?
So Allison and I have been trying to figure out for a long time, what can we do in between Writer's Bridge and our one-on-one coaching, right? Because we couldn't take on 96 clients. And a lot of people don't have, the time to do intense one-on-one coaching, but we love seeing you all here and we wanted like a middle of the road thing. And we wanted it to be delivered. So it is called the Express Lane newsletter. It launches February 1st. The early bird price is in effect right now in January, $19.99 a month or $199 for the whole year. Because it actually starts in February, you actually get 13 months for that price. It's not going to renew until next March if you take the yearly plan. And we are going to be delivering specific exercises to your inbox every Monday and Friday. And you decide, okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes Monday afternoon and Friday afternoon, and that is going to be the bulk of my platform time. Or you say, you know what? Every Saturday morning, I'm going to get myself a cup of coffee and I'm going to do those 2 exercises for the week, whatever you want to do. What we want to deliver to you is if you do not do anything but these things, your platform will grow and you will learn more about where your unique perspective fits into what your audience really wants, and have the confidence to figure out when things are working or when they're not, what you can tweak. So you may want to do more platform work than this during the year, but the way we're choosing the exercises are thinking if these are the only things, the only
this
ways
is a great
you touch
base level.
That's right.
Yeah. And you can find out more about that at thewritersbridge.com. There'll be a link right there for the Express Lane. So welcome. And if you have never been to the Writer's Bridge before, we are all about building platform, but we call ourselves the Writer's Bridge because a platform is a thing that you stand up on and yell at people from. And a bridge is a two-way street where you can reach your readers and your readers can reach you. We always recommend that you plan to watch this video video again, even if you are here live, just because we do cover an awful lot and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. We will start with our question of the week. Kelsey asks, I am a public school teacher in a small town, which can make what I post on social media tricky. Quite a few coworkers, my principal and school board members follow me on Twitter. Any advice for being real without being too open? You know, this is a great question because, I mean, how many of us worry about privacy for one reason or another? You know, either we're writing a memoir and we're nervous that people are going to read it and be offended. People are going to read it and be offended we wrote about them. They're going to be offended we left them out. You know, it feels sometimes like there's no way to win. And what we really suggest is that you get specific in advance about what you consider private and what you want to share. What one person considers private is not the same for another thing. Somebody might post about their kids. Somebody might not post about their kids at all. I have a friend who has a really great social media account. She shares one of her children's faces, but not the other children's faces. You know, so she's made a really specific decision about which kid is public and which kids are private. For me, mental health is open season. Let's talk about getting on Wellbutrin and that time I wanted to drive off a bridge. I am an open book right there. For Ashley, she talks about marriage and specific ways that you have sex, Ashley.
It's true.
I know that you have a sex blanket. This might be more than some of us ever wanted to know.
You do. And people and my members only even know my favorite position with the Hitachi magic wand. But there are so many things that happen in my life that never show up on social media and never show up in my writing. Those really close to me know that over the last year and a half, there have been some of the most significant family changes in my life. My audience doesn't know about that. Also, one of my best friends, who has been a dear friend to me for over a decade, didn't know my husband's last name. She thought it was Renard. She thought they were all Renard because I never post my husband or my kids' last names. And Allison, is this news to you too?
I don't know your husband's last name either.
Nope.
Wow.
Nobody does. So so you can go, if you type in Ashley Renard, actually Ashley Renard husband is one of the things that jumps up like as a search term, but his last name never shows up.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. So there are certain things that I do not show, or if we are at a sporting event, I actually block out the logo on my kids' jersey. Whenever I was talking about how I accidentally got signed up to coach my kids' township soccer, I always have the closed captioning in front of the logo for our township sports. So to everybody, it looks like I am just an open book, but I am strategically private. And Allison has this incredible exercise for figuring out where those lines are for each of us.
It is a giant public self inventory. If you end up doing the express lane, you'll get the public self inventory. Meanwhile, make a list. What's private? What's not private? Is your body private? Are all parts of your body private? Is your marriage private? Is your dating life private? Are your kids private? Is the nature of your illness private? And because by deciding in advance, you're not getting caught off guard. Stephanie's just hashtagged it strategically private. And I really, really like that. Specifically for Kelsey, the teacher who asked the original question, you don't have to be fair and balanced, but it's useful to acknowledge the other side of an issue, even when you're strongly disagreeing. And if your subject is going to anger people in your community, start owning that now. You know, you may have to make an active decision. What's more important, writing what you believe or getting along with your community? Because there might be people in your community who believe what you do, and they're grateful that they're not the only one who feels like that. And for everybody, when you are talking about private stuff, come at it like an expert rather than a victim. You're not asking for pity. You're sharing honest information and personal experience that may help somebody else. Marisa has a great comment. I feel like I won't know what's private until I see someone else post about something that I wouldn't post about. And Jennifer's got a great one. I try to remember what David Sedaris said when his family is criticized. They didn't sign up for this. I did. So hopefully that will help.
Such a good point. And so Brooke, the way that Allison put together these questions in the public self-inventory, like it's even like, okay, are you okay with nudity? That's like artistic, or would you be okay with nudity? And it's like, oh, wow, like nudity isn't just nudity. Like there are different things, right? There's a whole continuum for each one of these. The first time I ever saw that exercise, I told Allison, it's one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen her do. And then every week there's another one, but it's a good one.
So let's talk about numbers, because I know you guys have seen people talking on Twitter about, let's do a writer lift. Everybody follows everybody else. You've seen people actively try to rack up followers, and very often being popular and being engaged in the community are the same behavior with different hats. And so what you want to do is make sure that your popularity comes from your engagement in the community rather than trying to manufacture popularity for the sake of popularity. So why do numbers matter at all? There are two things that sell books. People are interested in the topic, or they recognize you. And building platform is just making as many people as possible aware that you're writing something that they care about. Ashley, what do you want to add to that?
One of the reasons I pushed myself to start writing a regular newsletter was because my numbers are really growing on social media, but it's only in one specific place that I have a ton of engagement and I build those stronger connections with my audience, and that's in my Instagram stories. Some of you have heard me talk about why this is, but the specific reason that people will connect more strongly there is because every time they comment on your stories, it's actually sent to your direct messages. So it's a private thing that like their Aunt Sally's not going to see, their partner's not going to see. It's a private message. And I thought, okay, I can't do that on Twitter. There are no stories on TikTok. Like, what are the ways that we can do this? And I thought, okay, I'm going to ask for replies in my newsletter. And my Thursday newsletter, a bulk of it is sharing parts of replies from Tuesday. So even if people never reply, I'm showing them that I do read the messages, I do think about them, and then I'll put them together to share back to the community. So just building that engagement back and forth. Now, it takes a lot of time, but those connections that I make really get my creative fire going for what my next book needs to be about, what my next essay needs to be about, what next week's newsletters. It always gives me answers for what is going to come next, because I find talking to a reader is the best way to figure out.
It's why so many books have come out of blogs, because we're writing in response to the actual readers. We know exactly who we're writing for and why. So numbers really don't tell the whole story. Lots of people have sold books without being on social media at all. Lots of people have sold books with 100,000 followers. Lots of people with 100,000 followers have never sold a book. Things like writer lifts, where people want to follow me and I'll follow you back, they're not meaningful, because what matters is engagement. It is better to have 100 followers who are readers, who are interested in what you have to say, than it is to follow 20,000 writers who all have 20,000 writer followers, because you're just going to be one tiny little voice in their crowd, and vice versa. What matters is engagement. And what engagement looks like is, how often do people have a short conversation with you online? How often do they comment on your photos beyond just clicking the like? How often do you share information related to your topic, your writing, your book? And does that information get reshared or discussed even outside your own feed? So, for example, I work with Dinty W. Moore, who's the editor-in-chief of Brevity. Dinty every day quotes a famous writer tweet or a meaningful writer tweet, and I see those things retweeted all over the place. So people are engaging and retweeting because he is putting into the world a thing that they care about, a thing that causes them to engage and to keep moving. So what kind of numbers do you actually need? Because this is the $1 million question. Everybody wants to know how many people do I actually need?
I do not think that numbers actually are what the agents or the publishers are looking for. I really do think that open rates on email lists are something that they're going to be more interested in. Anything over 20% open rate is good, especially if your list is growing in size. Getting up into the 30, 40, 50s, that would be super impressive to an agent. Consistency in your follower growth or your analytics over time. And almost every platform now, we have some questions in the chat about people having personal or professional Twitter accounts. I just went over to a professional Twitter account when I was prompted the other day, just so I'll have the analytics. I'm not very active there, but I do check my analytics constantly on Facebook and Instagram. Often those are the things, like book sales lag behind those things. And I want to know every day, besides responses that I'm getting, are these things that I'm making in response to what I think my audience wants actually being pushed out to more people? Because I know my content will be pushed out to more people if more people watch it all the way through, right? It's the engagement that forces the reach more than the algorithm of like 3 years ago, where it was your follower number was the biggest indicator of how far a post would go for impressions.
Barbara has a great question in the chat. Anybody with a verified check mark here on social, has it helped with your numbers? Abby Alton Schwartz, I think you have a blue check on Twitter, and I believe you said that you got it because you applied for it and Twitter asked for links to things that you had published in national media. Abby, if you're here, feel free to type into the chat what happened with that. When we're looking at engagement as well, something to think about, if you really, really, really need to aim for a number, aim for 10,000. And that's not on one single platform necessarily. That is across social media, your newsletter, whatever social media you choose to be on, other types of mailing list, your public speaking or your teaching, if you do that, establishing yourself as an expert in your topic, or getting connected with the fan group if you write fiction or if you write poetry. If you're writing a big idea book, something like a Malcolm Gladwell book or narrative nonfiction, you're going to need bylines, and that becomes your platform. You need to be published in the New York Times. You need to be pitching articles to places like The Atlantic and Harper's, places where you're demonstrating that your work appeals to a wide range of people who are ready to have opinions about your topic. And it's also really helpful if you can get an essay to go viral, which I know, let's talk Powerball numbers next, but a viral essay is about 100,000 views, maybe more. Jody asks, how is that 10,000 number determined? Different people on the other end are going to count it in different ways. Different agents care about different things. Different publishers care about different things. For the purposes of it being useful for you as a writer, I would say 10,000 people in no more than 3 places, because otherwise you're probably spreading yourself too thin. And we're going to talk in a minute about which platforms should you be on. If you're selling specifically on platform, if you're writing self-help, if you're writing wellness, if you're writing how-to, if you're writing business, you will need bigger numbers or an incredibly specific niche audience that you know exactly how to reach. So think about that. And Abby has weighed in on the Twitter thing. She was surprised to get verified the first time she applied. Abby didn't have a ton of followers, but she rewrote her bio with care, included the publications she was in. At that point, only 3, but that was the minimum for applying. There was a blog post I read to increase your odds of getting verified. I'll try to find that link. I'm also fairly active on Twitter, both posting and replying to others.
That's really helpful, Abby. Even I've applied for verification on Instagram 3 times and been denied. I think one of them was far before even the Writer's Bridge. So I had, 1,000 something followers. But they want either stories in national media or about me or written by me. So those, I think on Twitter and Instagram, it's the same. Like, how can we verify you by seeing other people have already verified you? It's sort of like when you're querying an agent and you're like, yeah, I've been in the New York Times, I've been in Paris Review. It's like, okay, all right, somebody already vetted they're a good writer. Let me see the story. It's similar for that little blue check.
Yeah. So what we really want to encourage you to do is the platform building that you do. If you don't focus on the numbers, focus on the engagement, and try to do things that are rewarding and pleasant for you at the same time that it builds your numbers, builds your engagement, builds your audience. So instead of doing a writer lift to get Twitter followers, participate in conversations when you've got info to share, when you've got questions to ask, retweet people's achievements or reply to them with congratulations, lift other people up, share what you're reading, what you're thinking about. And one strategic tip I use for Twitter, I've started using the tweet scheduling function because now it's native in Twitter. You can do it right there. If I'm reading a blog post or an article I really like, I'll pull a quote, put it in a tweet, tag the writer, tag the publication. Then I will pull 3 to 5 more quotes and schedule them for 2 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now, 20 weeks from now. And all of a sudden that helps me be regular on Twitter without having to be on Twitter every single day. It gives me that baseline of there is constantly generating content. Plus, I'm lifting up somebody else who might reply or retweet, and I'm lifting up a publication who might reply or retweet. And so that becomes really, really helpful.
Allison, let me ask you, because when you describe that, I'm like, that must take forever. How long does that take you?
It takes me like 4 minutes. I mean, the first couple of times it took me 10 or 15 minutes because I had to figure out, where's the calendar and what do I click on for the date. But scheduling on Twitter is super, super easy. I timed myself because I tried out a service that automatically pulls quotes from blogs and makes tweets out of them. And I wanted to see, is it any faster? It was not faster. I think I put together 10 tweets in 17 minutes, and it was complicated. I tagged book links, I tagged publications, I tagged the authors being reviewed, and the same set of tweets took about 17 minutes in the paid for service. So I was just like, I'm just going to do this on Twitter by myself. And it's more genuine when I'm pulling out the stuff that struck me and responding to it.
Marisa asked a question about insights. Okay, so she's looking at the insights section on Instagram, but confused on how to figure out the engagement. Is there an overall engagement for your account or just individual posts? So Marisa, if you have a creator account, which is one of the 2 professional choices on Instagram, you can have a personal account or professional account. In the professional account, you can have business or creator. Creator is best for writers. We could still even sell products through it, but it'll give us the insights that are most interesting and helpful for us. If you click on insights on your main profile page, one of the pages it will take you to, this is a new thing. So Marisa, I'll send you a screenshot and then you can tell me what yours looks like, because there is the chance that this hasn't been rolled out to everybody. I've had this probably for a month and a half. It will show you how many accounts you engaged that week and what percentage of them were followers and what percentage of them were non-followers. So it's not that one is better than the other. They both serve different goals. If a huge percentage of your followers, like about 50% of my followers, engage with my stuff or view my stuff every week. I just hit 55,000 on Instagram. So having 50% of them come to my stories or something else every week is spectacular, in my opinion, spectacular. But about 75% of the people I reach every week are non-followers. And I love that number is so high, because it is like casting a wide net every week. Like, oh, humans who don't know I exist, here I am. Because then when they come to me, there are a lot of places I'm being really strategic, even with my Instagram highlights, for them to figure out, to poke around, who is she? What is she about? And that has led to huge email list growth in the last 9 weeks. Huge.
And notice as well that Ashley is looking for readers, not writers. Obviously, we also want other writers to be part of our community because writers are readers too, and we help each other and we get used to each other and we can lift each other up. But at the same time, you need to find your actual readers. If you write memoir or nonfiction, where are the people who have your problem? If you write fiction, what fan communities do those readers hang out in? It can take time to establish yourself with an audience. It can take time to establish yourself as an expert. Give it a year before you think, oh man, this sucks. Like, yeah, sometimes it can feel like, hey, you're shouting into the void, but it does get better. And it gets better faster at about the 6-month mark. And it gets better faster again at about the 11 or 12-month mark. One thing that's really important is pick the platform you most enjoy. Start with your own strengths and give yourself time to explore and learn the platform. Ashley and I have some recommendations for you on which platforms you should be on. If you love making video, you should be on Instagram or TikTok and YouTube. If you love blogging, get onto LinkedIn. Do guest posts on other sites that will then, you can then repost those blogs to your own blog after about 30 days, but you're getting access to other people's audiences. Ashley?
If you are literary, we want you to focus on publication and building mentorship relationships through awards, workshops, and competitive residencies. And also do Twitter, because a lot of your fellow writers and even the readers who are going to be interested in your content are going to be there. If you write self-help or how-to, Instagram plus TikTok is a really good combination. You could also cross-post so easily to YouTube. YouTube Shorts is a new thing that they're testing. And just right on your YouTube app, right at the bottom, it's like create a short. And then you can just upload the video that you just put on Instagram and TikTok. This is one of the reasons I want everyone to know this, because it saves so much time. And I've been coaching so many clients through what to do if this wasn't the case. Make your videos on Instagram and save them to your camera roll. It's the only way I've found to make a video that has the editing that you want, maybe the filters, and then have a clean copy. By clean, I mean a copy with no watermark that either has, like, the TikTok symbol on it or the reel symbol, that then you can post on any platform. This is how I've cross-posted to Facebook Reels. This is a thing. If you like video and if you have reels that you've put, short videos that you've put on Instagram or TikTok, and you have the Reels capability on Facebook, take 30 minutes this afternoon and dump all of your videos on your personal profile and your author profile. Facebook is really, really bringing out the big guns to try to compete with TikTok. So they're offering Reels Play bonuses to creators, and you don't need to have very many videos up to qualify for that. And the amount that they're paying compared to like the couple cents a month on TikTok is enormous. You can tell they're making a big investment in this. But you need to have a little content up there first to even get a chance for that bonus.
We have some questions in the chat about what makes your writing literary. It can be about what you love to read, but it is more about the style in which you write. So a literary style is where the beauty of the writing is an equal reason to read the book, as well as the plot or the issue that it's addressing. You're reading it because the writing is truly transcending and taking you to another place. And there is a specific beauty to the prose that's really compelling. Literary writers are a whole special audience all their own. But the good news is you don't need to have a whole ton of stuff on social media if you're a literary writer, because you really do want to be focusing on making connections, getting mentorship, and getting published in literary magazines. If you write memoir, you got to make a decision. Do you want to sell on beautiful writing, or do you want to sell on your audience and your platform? If you want to sell on beautiful writing, focus your time like a literary writer. Focus on improving your writing and connect on Twitter to other literary people who you can hopefully then have mentor you, connect you, help you be successful in that world. Or if you're focusing on platform, focus on your email list, focus on pitching essays, try and get your work out there into the world and connect with the people who really need your advice and to hear about your experience.
We have a question in the chat about Clubhouse. I did a big push on Clubhouse in the spring to try it out and to create rooms and spaces where other writers could try it out. So I put together discussion panels and it was super fun. What I don't love about it is that time spent is not recorded and reusable in any way. And it was hard to actually share the link for the conversation anywhere where people could click on it. I would say that Clubhouse could be most effective if you are writing some sort of self-help that is niche. Like if you are a finance expert, if you are a dietary expert, that has to deal with like something really specific, like food for lupus or arthritis, like getting into those communities on Clubhouse could really pay off. But it's going to be different for each of us depending what our niche is.
If you are a fiction writer who is not writing literary fiction, focus on expressing your voice and your personality on Twitter and building your email list. Hetty asks about podcasts. Absolutely. If you have the time and the dedication to make podcasts or to make a video series like Stephanie does, that can be really effective in growing your audience long term. People are really inviting you in an intimate way. When they listen to your podcast, they tend to be listening to you in a private space, like their bedroom, their bathroom, their car. And so podcasts are a fantastic way, but they are a bit of a commitment. So, try some short podcast episodes, see what it feels like, see if you enjoy it. And then what the heck, podcast the heck out of it and tell us how it goes. If you are a person with almost no time, focus on Twitter because you can do it in 3-minute bursts throughout the day. They don't have to be super, super well written, although you will get a better response if you have great phrasings. It's easy to do Twitter. I would say of all the social platforms, Twitter is the easiest for me. Ashley, you're barely active on Twitter at all. How come?
I only go to Twitter when I want to stroke my confirmation bias about something that's going on in the world. So if I'm like, that is a tragedy, I'll go to Twitter and look at trending and I'll be like, look, a lot of people agree with me. And somehow, if there's something going on with the Kardashians, I guess I've been clicking on that because that's what Twitter feeds me. Because I've never watched the show, so I just like lurk through Twitter. I find that my target audience, the people who really are gravitating to my videos and to my book, hang out on Instagram. And I can't be in all the places at once. One of the things that I'm worried about with my videos is popping them all up on Twitter and then having some crazy field day of comments that would make me feel really uncomfortable, that then I wouldn't know how to put the cat back in the bag.
Twitter is definitely a less intimate platform. It's more for talking about cultural affairs. There are a lot of writers on there. There are a lot of agents on there, and there are a lot of publishers on there. And if you're actively querying, at least get onto Twitter for a while. Betty says, I need a Twitter tutorial. And as it happens, our next episode coming up is going to focus on Twitter. So absolutely. The other thing to remember too is if Twitter stresses you out, don't worry about it because Twitter is the smallest of all of the social media platforms by like 10 times. I mean, everything else is much larger. You really only need to be on Twitter. I mean, in the sense that we need to be on any social media You really only need to be on Twitter if you're writing politics, if you're writing narrative nonfiction, if you want to set yourself up as a serious expert, rather not a self-help expert, but a serious expert in another topic that's like a cultural topic. Jody, it's smallest and that it has the smallest population of people using it. I think Twitter's at 30 million or something like that, and Instagram's at 2 billion. I mean, it's a huge difference.
It's way off. And actually, I think it was the day that TikTok hit 1 billion or something. One of the platforms hit a big number that then I was like, oh, I don't know. And I went and I searched all of them, and I was really surprised, especially being in writing, how small Twitter was, because to me it seems like the fastest and the biggest. But really, actually, we don't talk about Reddit on here, but Reddit is even a place I've been going for information, which, someday maybe we'll dive into that. But there are so many places that people can connect. It is impossible to be in all of them. So if there's a little nagging part of you that is saying, oh, but you're not here, then you say, and Ashley and Allison say, that's good. I don't need to be everywhere, right? If somebody really wants I get messages sometimes, hey, are you on Snapchat? I'll be like, nope. But that person likes me enough to just say, oh, am I missing out on anything you're doing anywhere? It's not that I have to then go over there and make a presence.
Jennifer points out Instagram and Facebook, she's been trying to wean off because it eats into writing time. This is such a good point. And there's 2 ways to tackle this. One is get off social media, focus on your email list. It is often better to have a strong email list than to have social media, because then you own those people's emails and you can get to them, as opposed to if Twitter shuts down one day, I have lost 14,000 people who I currently have access to. The other thing is, when you are doing social media for your writing work, not for fun, not for relaxation, although it can be fun and relaxing, but for your work as a writer, don't scroll. Go in with intention. I don't just go onto Facebook. I go and I visit 4 or 5 specific groups, contribute something when I can, like some stuff, congratulate some people, pump up some people. I very rarely post on my own Facebook feed at all. Almost everything happens in groups. On Twitter, you can make a list on Twitter, or you can follow other people's lists, which is a really great way to keep an eye on a specific subset of people. What are the agents I'm following talking about? Let me put them all on one list, and then you can scroll through them. And next week, 2 weeks from now, when we talk about Twitter, we'll show you how to make a list, how to follow other people's lists. Keep lists for yourself of things worth sharing or writing about, and make writing for social media part of your writing practice. Write those mini essays on Instagram. Ashley does a really great job telling short stories in Reels. Ashley, what advice do you have on that?
I just put in the chat, and I want everybody to hear this. When I go on TikTok and see a video on my For You page and then start jumping around, watching the other videos with that sound, whatever, my video views go down. Like, I will get almost no notifications during that time. Whereas if I was not even on my phone, I would have 99 notifications next time I go back to TikTok. I swear that TikTok tags me every day as a creator or consumer. And I think that other platforms probably do this some way too in the algorithm. If you are going to go on social media, go and answer your direct messages, check in your requests folder and see if there's a message that landed there from somebody who's interested in an essay you wrote or wants to say that they read your book, and respond to them. Like, spend your time digging for like people who are already reaching out to you, respond to your comments. Look on your writers' friends' posts and then reshare them to your story if they're relevant to your audience. Like, use your social media time to be really specific about what you're going to do to build and connect with people, rather than just scrolling around seeing, I don't know what we're going to see that's just not going to, I don't know what we're going to see that's going to inspire us. Most of the time, comparison just starts. And then I wonder why I didn't make that or do that, or why that person seems to be rocking it more than me.
And I want to also double stress, use social media, use platform building to focus on your writing. Make a newsletter that is a thing of beauty and inspiration. Make an Instagram post that is a beautiful little mini essay. Use Twitter to polish your sentence craft. If you follow Lucy Frost on Instagram, she does some really great videos about things you need to learn that are just, fun, quirky, interesting facts. And each one of them is a fun little moment. You feel fulfilled having watched it. If you follow Brooke on Twitter, Brooke Nicely, that's Knisley. Brooke is really funny in this kind of like aggressive, raw way. And Brooke, I don't know how much of that is polished and how much of that is just who you are and that's your voice. But I get a really clear sense of who Brooke is as a person and as a writer from her Twitter. She's not just randomly retweeting stuff. She's not just randomly telling me stuff. I get an insight into her personality. And Twitter is a great place to get better at writing excellent sentences.
Some of my favorite accounts to follow on Instagram have no videos and no photos. They literally just take a screenshot of everything they tweet and then post it as just a white square with text from their tweet. And that's what their whole feed is. But they're very niche. Like they're talking about complex PTSD, or they're talking about recovery from narcissistic abuse, or they're talking about something. They're a professional, an expert. They're an expert, maybe not a professional, but they show themselves to be an expert in that field. And it's just consistent niche advice about that topic. And so that they're writers, but because they're taking the screenshot, then they can share it in a visual way on Instagram. So don't worry about not taking great photos. Don't even worry about video. Don't worry. Focus on your message. Focus on your message. As your writing gets better, you are going to get better in interviews. You're going to get better if you need to be on video for something or recorded in a podcast. Our ability to tell our stories concisely and to tell them in a way that resonates with people is our greatest gift and our greatest responsibility as writers. So whatever platforms make that easier for you because it naturally fits into your skill set and it is fun, focus on those platforms.
Exactly. Absolutely. And if you are starting from the beginning, I know a lot of people are newbies. A lot of people are just getting into this whole platform building. How do I reach my readers thing? Make the most of the platform you have. A simple, clean website, one page that shows your topic clearly and establishes who you are and what you're writing about. Just a short bio. You don't need a million links to publications. It's just functioning as a business card online where people can find out more about you. It's kind of like the headquarters. Focus on one, maybe two social media platforms that you genuinely enjoy, where you can show up regularly and engage in discussions with people who kind of start to feel like a community. See if you can get short pieces into the world, whether that's blogs on your own site or blogging for other sites or pitching articles, and then share the best quotes from those through your newsletter, through your social media. And start a spreadsheet now and start adding email addresses, because even if you don't start a mailing list right this minute, you're going to want to start a mailing list in 18 months. And that way you will have a head start on picking up all of those email addresses. Ashley, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yeah. Rachel asks, what are our thoughts on transitioning from an IG account, Instagram account, that was about our personal life and shared with family and friends, to a more professional account? Okay, I think that this is one of the shifts that we need to make. Bless you, Amanda. I think this is one of the shifts that we need to make. I can't hear you. I just saw you and it's a reflex. I can't not say bless you. When we are positioning ourselves as writers, either publicly or in our own little hearts. Yes, I'm a writer. Yes, I'm a writer. When we put something out online, when we put something out into the world, what we need to be thinking and focused on, we need to look beyond our circle here. We need to be looking on readers who don't know we exist yet. Okay, so they're potential readers. That's who we need to keep our sights on. When we write our bio, that's who we're thinking about. We're not saying, oh, but my sister would laugh if I actually called myself a memoirist. My sister or whoever, they would be like, essayist, what's that? We're not listening to that little goof troop of people who are close to us. We need to think about, if somebody finds Marsha's essay, if somebody picks up her anthology of lyrical essays and finds her, and then she's like, I'm gonna Google Marsha McGregor. When she goes to Marsha's Instagram, she wants to be like, this is what Marsha's writing is about, and this is what I can expect to find from her as a writer. So however you want to position yourself in the world, like, it's not like, it's like the advice, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Write a bio for how you want to be seen as a writer 1 year from now, rather than how you really feel you are as a writer right now. Okay, so just stretch out like that, and everything you post, if you're asking yourself, oh, how are people going to react to this? Ask yourself, am I thinking about, friends from high school who are going to see this? Or am I thinking about new potential audience members? You always have to recalibrate yourself to, I want to let these new potential readers, because we all know as writers, our friends and family are not actually our biggest fans as far as readers. And that's okay. That's okay. I've told my friends, you don't need to sign up for my paid newsletter. That I'm not going to be looking at my subscribers and going, did my friend Michael sign up? No, because I connect with him in different ways. Okay. So the way that we want to connect online and in the world with our readers is going to be different than people who are friends from a long time ago and who we have a personal connection with on different levels.
Abby asks a really great question, which is, do we need to stay on topic? Do I have to always write about my topic? No, you don't have to. You're building your public persona. You're building your public self. And all of the aspects of your public self are interesting. And that being your genuine self is how you make people feel like your friends instead of like your customers. And like we have said many times on the Writer's Bridge, nobody wants to be your customer. They want to be your friend. So Ashley's going to tell us one more thing about Express Lane, and then I'm going to come back with the 3 things you can do today to build your platform. Ashley, tell us about the prizes.
All right, we have 2 January bonuses. One is the Your Public Self worksheet from Allison, which I just love. I actually want to revisit it just to see if things have shifted for me in the past year. The second is a Build Your List package. It starts with a Figure Out Your Freebie worksheet. What the hell can you offer for free to try to get people on your list? This sheet will take you through the things you can ask yourself, the places you can mine to figure out those answers, and then assure you that it can be as simple as a 1-page PDF. I have a 1-page PDF that I'm calling the little freebie that could. It's brought 11,000 people to my list in the past 9 weeks. And then I have tutorials that we've put together for how to make a simple form. I chose Flowdesk for the tutorials because it is the very, very easiest platform to use if you don't have a lot of experience, or if you have fought with other platforms for a while, how to put that form on your website, and then PDF templates that you can use to make that freebie. And then a section on call to action. How the heck are you going to tell people about this freebie and weave it into your message so it feels natural and it feels like an easy yes for people. We want people to click and sign up for your freebie like you would make an impulse buy for a magazine at the cash register, that you see 5 easy ways to solve that big problem I've always wanted to solve. Yes, please. So That's what that package helps you with. And it's one of our January bonuses.
And you can find out more about that at thewritersbridge.com, where there is a link to the Express Lane. So what can you do today? What is a doable step today? Number 1, if you're on Twitter, make a list of the people you care the most about interacting with or learning from. If you're not on Twitter, consider which of your Facebook groups you want to visit on a fairly regular basis, or consider who you want to interact with on Instagram or another platform on a fairly regular basis. Number 2, actively decide which platform do you enjoy the most. You know, there's one that doesn't make you cringe and curl up like a tiny little armadillo every time you get on there. Think about which platform you actively enjoy and make yourself a repeating to-do to be on there for 10 to 15 minutes, 5 days a week. Set a timer if you find yourself mindlessly scrolling. Really, truly limit it to 10 to 15 minutes, 5 days a week. If you've got an automatic to-do list, put that in your to-do list so it pops up every day. If you're like me and you're old school with the paper, I make a little checkbox and I check it off every single day that I do the thing I want to do on my list. Number three.
Jamie McGillan says, but I love mindlessly scrolling. Then do it with joy, but don't you dare count that as platform building work. That's fine. You can binge Netflix or you can binge TikTok, but we don't call binging Netflix, oh, time I spent on my platform.
Exactly. And number three, look at the 3 authors you most want to be shelved next to who have published in the last 5 years and look at what their platform looks like. Google them. Where do they speak? Where do they teach? What credentials do they have? Have they got an award that you would be applying for in 2 or 3 years? And what would you need to start working on to be ready to apply for it? Have they been to a residency that you would like to go to at some point? Have they participated in a conference that you could go network at or that you would like to speak at? Where are they publishing essays? Where are they publishing articles? Take a moment and look at those authors who you want to share a bookshelf with and ask yourself, what have they been doing? And what is my very first baby step towards doing that too? Maybe the baby step is looking at the website of the conference they spoke at last. Maybe the baby step is reading the literary magazine that they just got published in, but take that little baby step. So make lists, actively pick a platform and show up there regularly and model yourself on the authors you want to be near. Platform really does take time and effort to build. And yes, it does take away from your writing time. But the good news is you can do 15 focused minutes a day for 2 years, listening to your audience, caring about other people having the same experience and adding topics as you discover them and you want to talk about them. And your platform's going to gradually assemble itself.
I want to add on to that, Allison, with something I noticed in the chat from a couple of people, that they said that they can't produce anything in 10 to 15 minutes. It takes them about 2 hours. That's what it takes me as well. So I set aside 3 hours every Thursday where I am going to script and record videos. And I've gotten it to the point where I could make 15 videos easily and not even hit the 3-hour mark. So if it takes you 2 hours to get going, don't give yourself 2 hours. Set aside 3 hours once a week, because once you get going, think about how many other posts you could maybe put together. Maybe you could do 3 or 4 posts in that time. It takes a bit of warm up. It's like,
and you get faster with practice, and that applies to writing as well as visual creation. I blog for Brevity most Tuesdays and Thursdays. It takes me an hour. It did not used to take me an hour to write a 900-word blog, but now it takes me an hour because I've been doing it for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Been doing it for a while. You guys are all amazing. Our next episode is going to be all things Twitter. You will be notified of the next meeting. You don't need to sign up again. Please feel free to unmute yourselves for a beautiful goodbye. Thank you for honoring us with your time and attention.
Hey, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Download the chat if you need it.
Get that chat. That was such a good chat.
Yes. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year,
Everybody. Nice to see you.
Bye, Stephanie.